Welcome to my underappreciated fighters series, where I would usually introduce the video by saying not every fighter has to be a Hall of Fame, not every fighter has to be a multiple time world champion to be remembered. And I still agree with that statement, but this video is a little different. In this video, we're talking about Billy Smith, who was a journeyman. He is the very definition of the journeyman. And this underappreciated fighters is about Billy Smith, but it's more about the journeyman in general, the journeyman in boxing, which is kind of like the cornerstone of boxing, which builds up fighters. And boxing needs the journeyman, and they are very underappreciated by fans, by promoters, by boxers themselves, by our very own language, by the very own way we speak about fighters. Oh, this guy's a bum. He has 4 losses. This guy sucks. He has 3 losses. Where does that leave the journeyman? Where would you put the journeyman if this guy with 4 losses is a bum? What is a journeyman then? In reality, no fighter's a bum because every fighter is stepping into the ring to make a living. And I'm not gonna try to control your language, but that this is just me. I want to say that before you call a fighter a bum, consider why he's doing it. Whether it be for money, whether it be for legacy, he is still just trying to feed his family. This is still just a job. The sport of boxing is a job for these fighters. Now, Billy Smith started his career in March 28th of the year 2000. He started it with 24 straight losses and ended his career in July 6th of 2013 with only 13 victories, 145 defeats, and 2 draws. A couple weeks after his last fight, Billy Smith committed suicide, just like his brother Ernie had in the year 2010. Now, Billy Smith fought kind of a who's who up in the British boxing scene. He was British. He was the cornerstone, as a lot of people want to put it, of British boxing for years. It was a rite of passage to fight Billy Smith. The amazing thing is, out of the 145 losses that Billy Smith suffered, he only lost 8 of them by knockout. He had 0 knockouts, and his brother Ernie only had 1 knockout in his whole career out of and 13 victories as well. Which is amazing how both Billy and Ernie's career mimicked each other. They both had 160 fights. They both had only 13 victories. Ernie had 5 draws. Billy Smith had 2 draws. So Billy had a few more losses, but their careers really mimicked each other. Now, Billy Smith fought Gavin Reese, Ricky Burns, Ashley Theophane, John Murray, Liam Smith, and Paul McCloskey. Those are fighters of note, fighters who would go on to probably win a British title and challenge for a world title. And I'm looking through the names of his opponents on BoxRec, and probably someone else that was more knowledgeable of the British boxing scene would recognize more of these fighters. So if you follow British boxing more than I do, then let me know if there's someone else that won the British crown in his record that is significant, because he was a cornerstone of British boxing for years, like I said before. Now, the 2 brothers committed suicide. This goes with an underlying problem with boxing and how it treats its fighters, especially the fighters that fight to lose. Because let's face it, you have 160 fights and 145 of them you lost. You get paid to lose. He lost his last 38 fights and only won 2 out of his last 88 fights. He fought 86 fights against undefeated fighters. How many fighters could you name today that even have 86 fights? Well, Billy Smith fought 86 times against an opponent who was undefeated. Now this is why I want to make this video. As boxing fans, I hate the term bum. I hate the fact that we use bum and we just throw it around. It shows a lack of respect. It shows a lack of respect for the sport. It shows a lack of respect for the fighters themselves. Because at the end of the day, they're just trying to make a living. And if a guy loses a couple times, it doesn't make him a bum. Not even Billy Smith is a bum. Billy Smith is just a guy that was trying to make a living, trying to feed his family. Not a guy living in the street. He was a guy that gave valiant efforts against guys that would become world title challengers. In some cases, would even become world champions. That is not what bums do. And I just want us all to consider, as boxing fans, just to appreciate the journeyman, because they are, as the name entails, men that help in the journey of fighters, the journey of boxing. And boxing wouldn't be the same without it. I did make a video last year or a while back on Darnell Boone, but he's probably the most famous of the journeymen. And you have, I would say, hundreds or even thousands of fighters like Billy Smith who have hundreds of losses, who probably barely make ends meet and take beatings night after night after night. Now, Billy Smith was fighting dozens of times a year, taking fights on a week notice, on 3 days notice. Boxing needs guys like these, but boxing needs to appreciate guys like this and stop using that type of language that is not very respectful towards these people. Because if someone's just trying to make a living in construction, you don't look at the bottom tier construction company and call everybody in that company bums because they're not as good as probably a government company or a company that's building $1 million mansions. They're trying to make a living just like the high-end companies. So just like world champions, just like Hall of Famers, just like fighters like Floyd Mayweather, Billy Smith chose boxing as his career. Did he fail miserably? I think the way he ended his life probably tells that he did. But it does not make him a bum. It does not mean that he's not a boxer too, and it does not mean that he did not put his life every single night at risk. Every time he stepped into the ring, he put his life on the line. So journeyman deserve just as much respect as world champion, as a guy that's undefeated, as a guy with only a few losses. Let's respect everybody that steps into the ring, guys. Thanks everybody for watching, and have a great day.